The year was 1914, and the port city of Halifax, Nova Scotia, bustled with the sounds of ship horns and the rhythmic clanging of steel. In a modest home in Halifax's North End, Viola Irene Davis came into the world on July 6. She was the ninth of 10 children born to James Albert Davis and Gwendolyn Irene Davis. Her father, a skilled barber with a warm smile, was known in the neighborhood not only for cutting hair but also for offering advice, encouragement, and a sense of dignity to his customers. Her mother, Gwendolyn, the daughter of a white minister from the British Isles, believed deeply in the value of education and self-respect. Viola grew up in a time when Halifax was still healing from the Halifax explosion of 1917, the most powerful man-made blast before the atomic bomb. Though she was only 3 years old, the destruction left a lasting impression. Entire neighborhoods were leveled. Thousands were injured or killed. The black community of Africville, already marginalized, suffered tremendous loss. This was the world Viola inherited, a place where community bonds meant survival, but where deep racial divides were quietly enforced in everyday life. As a child, Viola noticed how opportunities for black women were painfully limited. Beauty salons that served white customers often refused to style the hair of black women. The training schools in Halifax, those that could teach someone how to become a beautician, simply did not allow black students. This wasn't written into law like in the American South. Instead, it was the unspoken, polite racism of Canada at the time, quiet enough to pretend it didn't exist, but strong enough to block opportunities at every turn. Viola didn't yet know it, but these invisible barriers would one day push her to challenge the system head-on. Chapter 1: Building an Empire. By her late teens, Viola's determination was clear. If Halifax wouldn't train her, she would go elsewhere. She traveled first to Montreal, then to Atlantic City in the United States, and finally to New York City to study at the Madam C.J. Walker School of Beauty Culture, one of the most prestigious institutions for black beauticians in North America. There, she learned not just hairstyling and skincare, but also the fundamentals of running a business. Returning to Halifax with confidence, skill, and vision, she opened Vis Studio of Beauty Culture, a salon that catered specifically to black women. It wasn't just a place to have your hair done, it was a refuge, a place where women could talk freely, share experiences, and feel beautiful in a society that often refused to see their beauty. Viola quickly realized that one salon wasn't enough to meet the needs of the community. She opened the Desmond School of Beauty Culture, training women from across Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Students would arrive with dreams, learn a trade, and leave empowered to start businesses of their own. To support them, Viola created her own line of cosmetics, sepia beauty products, designed for darker skin tones, shades that were almost impossible to find in Canadian stores at the time. She sold these products through her graduates, creating an early example of a self-sustaining business network run by and for black women. In an era when women, especially black women, were rarely celebrated as entrepreneurs, Viola was quietly breaking barriers with every business decision she made. Chapter 2: The Night at the Roseland Theatre. Viola sat alone in the dimly lit cell, her breath echoing in the silence around her. Every throb of her injured knee served as a reminder of her defiance, yet doubt crept into her thoughts. What would happen next? The walls closed in as she reflected on the stark reality of her situation, a haunting reminder that injustice could invade even the quiet towns of Canada. The flickering overhead light seemed to mock her, illuminating her determination yet casting shadows of uncertainty. She clenched her fists, vowing that this night would not silence her voice. She would rise against these oppressive tides. As the hours stretched on, Viola's mind raced, replaying the events that led her here. She recalled the harsh words of the cashier, the cold grip of the officers, and the shocked faces of other moviegoers. It stung more than her knee, it was a wound to her spirit. She understood that her act of resistance was bigger than this moment. She was standing against a system that sought to erase her identity. With each passing second, the resolve within her grew stronger. She would not let fear dictate her response. She would seek justice, not just for herself, but for all those marginalized voices yearning to be heard. Unexpectedly, a small spark of hope flickered within her. A sense that change was possible if only she dared to challenge the status quo. Suddenly, the heavy door creaked open, casting a sliver of light into her dark confinement. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the brightness, and as they stepped forward, Viola recognized the familiar face of a fellow activist. It was Clara, an old friend who had fought alongside her in the struggles for equality. Clara's eyes widened in shock as she assessed Viola's battered state. Without wasting a moment, she rushed forward, grasping Viola's hands tightly. "You're not alone," she murmured, her voice steady and reassuring. "We're going to make them listen." That promise filled the air around them, wrapping demand for justice in a shared resilience. Clara's unwavering support sparked a renewed fire in Viola's heart, illuminating the path forward. "Clara," Viola whispered, her voice shaky with emotion, "I never thought it would come to this." Viola took a deep breath, her spirit ignited by Clara's presence. "But it has, and we can't turn back," she declared, her voice steadying. Together, they embarked on their fight for dignity, ready to challenge the injustices they faced, knowing that their voices could echo far beyond the confines of that cell. Chapter 3: The Trial That Wasn't About Justice. Viola stood before the judge, her heart pounding in her chest as she attempted to make sense of the accusations. The courtroom felt unwelcoming, echoes of dismissive whispers surrounding her. She had initially thought this trial was about the tickets, but it became evident that it was a battle against a much deeper prejudice. Her thoughts drifted to Carrie M. Best, whose own struggle had ignited her resolve. As Viola spoke, her voice shaky yet determined, she recounted the feeling of hope that coursed through her veins during her daily exchanges with customers, contrasted sharply against the harsh reality of the courtroom. Yet beneath the anxiety loomed a burgeoning sense of purpose. As she continued to speak, Viola felt a surge of strength rising within her, fueled by the stories of those who had come before her. She highlighted not only her own plight but the collective suffering endured by many in her community. Each word served as a beacon of resilience, challenging not just her own charge but the systemic inequities embedded in society. The atmosphere shifted slightly. Listeners began to lean in, drawn by her unwavering courage and the raw emotion in her voice. She knew the stakes were high, yet she remained steadfast, a formidable presence fighting for justice that transcended her singular ordeal. With her story echoing in the courtroom, Viola realized this moment was bigger than herself. It resonated with countless others silenced by societal injustices. As the judge's gavel struck, marking the end of the proceedings, she understood the fight for equality had just begun, igniting a spark for others to follow. Chapter 4: Legacy Born from Injustice. Viola Desmond's legacy grew stronger, echoing through the halls of history as her sister Wanda's efforts helped spotlight the systemic racism Viola faced. The free pardon was more than a victory. It ignited conversations across the nation that demanded justice and recognition for marginalized voices. Communities gathered, remembering Viola not only as a pioneer but also as a symbol of resilience against oppression. Schools began to include her story in curriculums, ensuring future generations understood the significance of her actions. Monuments were erected, celebrating her life and the ongoing fight for equality. Activists rallied under her name, drawing strength from her unwavering spirit, as her story transformed from one of tragedy to one of hope and empowerment. The world began to see that Viola's legacy was not confined to the past. It was a living testament to the importance of civil rights. With each passing year, her influence rippled through various movements, reminding everyone that standing against injustice is a fight worth undertaking. Viola Desmond had become more than a figure in history. She was a catalyst for change, a guiding light for countless individuals striving to achieve equality in their own lives. In the years following the pardon, more and more Canadians shared their own stories of discrimination, inspired by Viola's bravery. Schools and community organizations began to host events that honored her contributions, ensuring that her legacy taught lessons of courage and justice. Workshops were held, focusing on racial equality, equity, and inclusion, empowering younger generations to stand for their rights. Viola Desmond's story is a pivotal reminder that the battle for justice is ongoing, urging each of us to stand tall against injustice. Her legacy not only reshaped Canadian history but also paved the way for future generations, inspiring a continuous quest for equality and dignity for all. Thanks everyone for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel and see you soon.